Hollywood loves to write its own history in glittering, safe ink. But beneath the marquee glow of the 1970s lurk westerns so raw, studios hurried to hide them. Each film you're about to meet stars names that once commanded box offices, yet found their saddles cut loose. Saddle up and discover 15 lost gunslingers whose echoes refuse to stay buried. Number 1. Kid Blue, 1973. Released in 1973, Kid Blue lures you into a dusty Texas border town where hippie icon Dennis Hopper trades Confederate blue dreams for the outlaw tan of the frontier. Bickford Wainer drifts in on a hissing train, announcing he's done with robberies and ready for honest work. Yet every storefront window reflects the sins he can't scrub off. The plot coils around his doomed attempt at respectability, fixing roofs by day while temptation prowls in the saloon at night. His last hope, a patent for hot air bathing tubs, vanishes in a puff of corporate laughter, pushing him back toward the gun. Why did Hollywood bury it? Because the film sneered at the heroic cowboy myth just when studios prayed for another True Grit. And Hopper's post-Easy Rider notoriety scared family advertisers. Director James Frawley shoots sun-bleached streets like a hangover, and the psychedelic twang of the score makes tumbleweeds feel conspiratorial. Kid Blue asked whether redemption survives rebellion. Distributors decided audiences didn't need the reminder. Today, its outlaw soul still smells of gun oil and patchouli. Number 2. Barrow, 1970. Barrow opened quietly in 1970, ferrying Lee Van Cleef's granite-jawed boatman across the Rio Grande and straight into studio oblivion. At first glance, it's a simple siege. Bandits led by a delightfully unhinged Warren Oates need Van Cleef's flatboat to haul stolen rifles north, but he strands the marauders on one bank and the terrified settlers on the other. The river becomes a mirror, reflecting greed, cowardice, and the lone ferryman's buried war guilt. Why did Hollywood look away? Because director Gordon Douglas swapped heroic posse cliches for a bitter moral equation. Nobody crosses without paying something in blood. And the Vietnam-era audience had already seen too much real carnage. United Artists dumped the picture into drive-ins, burying its sophisticated script beneath double-feature gunfire. Listen for the score's mournful horns. They sound like church bells floating over mud. By the time Van Cleef finally guns his engine upstream, the movie has proved water can be wider than any desert. The silence that follows its final shot lingers like an echo across an abandoned crossing, daring you to shout back. Number 3. The Hunting Party, 1971. The Hunting Party arrived in 1971 with a pedigree to die for. Gene Hackman at the height of his post-French Connection bloom, and Oliver Reed breathing lion-hearted menace. A callous cattle baron charters a private train to kidnap the schoolteacher his rival adores, and then hunts the abductors across scorched plains with a telescopic rifle designed for Africa. It plays like The Most Dangerous Game, rewritten by a furious divorce lawyer. Each kill a telegram sent to the woman caught between sadists. Why did Hollywood bury it? Because it bled too honestly. Audiences expecting a rousing posse picture found sexual brutality, Vietnam parallel slaughter, and a heroine whose only escape is shattering revenge. The Motion Picture Association slapped on an X abroad, and American theaters trimmed the running time until motives vanished. Director Don Medford's tracking shots turned the steel monster of the train into a roaming executioner, steam sighing like a dying man. When Hackman finally lowers his rifle, the horizon feels smaller, as if morality itself has been fenced off forever. Number 4. Hanny Calder, 1971. Hanny Calder rode in bare-shouldered fury during 1971, with screen siren Raquel Welch trading glamour gowns for a poncho stitched from heartbreak. After 3 sadistic brothers murder her husband and violate her, Hanny staggers through Mexican border dust until veteran gunsmith Robert Culp refashions her both in metal and in spirit. The film becomes a forge. Bullets hiss like molten tears, and every lesson in quick-draw cadence is a line of feminist poetry carved into walnut grips. Why was it smothered? Studios panicked at a revenge narrative that asked men to watch their own cruelty reflected in a woman's unflinching stare, and censors winced at the assault's raw implication. The picture arrived months after Straw Dogs, yet earned none of its critical debate, shuffled instead into grindhouses. Christopher Lee cameos as a philosophical mentor, adding gothic grace notes that confuse marketers hunting for action posters. By the time Hanny walks into her final showdown, you sense the West itself turning its back on damsels who shoot back. Her footfall deserved a spotlight, but Hollywood dimmed the lamps and walked away. Number 5. Billy Two, Hats, 1974. Billy Two Hats galloped out in 1974 with Gregory Peck tipping his sombrero low over Scottish cheekbones and speaking soft Cheyenne syllables. He plays Arch Deans, an aging outlaw mentoring half-breed protege, Billy, across Arizona, Mesa still rippling from post-Civil War tension. The pair botch a bank robbery, leaving a deputy dead and a relentless sheriff in pursuit. But the heart of the film is the campfire promise that friendship might outrun destiny. Why did it vanish? Because it whispered instead of roared. Peck's moral gravitas met Jack Warden's righteous fury in scenes that felt more Greek tragedy than shoot 'em up. And 1974 audiences craving car chases tuned out. United Artists released it during the very week Blazing Saddles lampooned the genre, making sincerity look antiquated overnight. Director Ted Kochev paints each dawn in wounded pinks, as though the sky itself is blushing at mankind's failures. When the final bullet finds its mark, the desert seems to hold its breath, wondering whether loyalty can be buried beneath shifting sand. Most critics never looked up from their popcorn to notice. Number 6. Ozans Raid, 1972. Ozans Raid thundered into theaters with Burt Lancaster wearing scarred buckskin as Scout McIntosh, hired to chase renegade Apache leader Ozana across blistered Arizona dust. The pursuit feels like a fever dream. Wagon trains left smoking, cavalry patrols flayed by hit-and-run cruelty. A green lieutenant learning mercy is useless here. Why did Hollywood bury it? Because director Robert Aldrich made massacre personal, every scream an indictment of manifest destiny, and 1972 audiences, already sickened by nightly Vietnam reports, refused more moral hemorrhage. Marketing chiefs shelved the campaign. Theaters gave it a bleak November slot, and the film disappeared. Yet the desert realism still scrapes viewers raw, leaving even veteran Western fans shaken to the bone. Number 7. The Missouri Breaks, 1976. The Missouri Breaks drifted in like Gunsmoke and Lilac. Jack Nicholson's rustler grins at railroad greed, while Marlon Brando's silk-scarved assassin hunts him with playful madness. The real setting isn't Montana. It's the inside of two unraveling psyches. United Artists expected high noon heroics, but Brando dressed as a nun, poisoned wells, and whispered philosophy beneath prairie moons. Test screenings howled, executives panicked, and ad budgets vanished. Beneath the eccentricity lies a funeral hymn for open range. Railroads devour land, friendship dies for profit, law mutates into murder for hire. Its cult echoes still whisper through revisionist westerns yet to be filmed. Number 8. The Last Hard Men, 1976. Charlton Heston's aging lawman Sam Burgade squares off against James Coburn's vengeful killer, Zach Provo, whose Comanche blood and prison scars ignite a kidnapping rampage across volcanic Arizona canyons. Two titans collide not for loot, but to decide whose definition of justice survives the century. Director Andrew McLaglen refuses heroes. Heston's badge is tarnished, Coburn's wrath almost righteous, and the violence rips like Vietnam news footage. Released opposite Rocky's optimism, the film felt grim and prehistoric. Fox slashed promotion, television banned its hostage torment, and audiences never found it. When the final duel ends, victory and defeat look identical. So, Hollywood quietly covered the grave, for fear of scaring Saturday matinee crowds away forever. Number 9. Posi, 1975. Kirk Douglas directs and stars as Marshall Howard Nightingale, a swaggering lawman who parades captured outlaw Jack Strawhorn, Bruce Dern at his slimiest, through prairie towns as campaign propaganda. Strawhorn escapes, steals the posse's payroll, and forces the marshal to confront the hollow core of his own legend. The film skewers election year optics just as Watergate headlines exploded, turning press cameras into weapons sharper than any Colt. United Artists sold it as straight action, then retreated when critics praised its cynicism. Prince vanished after one scorching summer. A Western that predicted the nightly news, unfathomable then, lingers now as a warning shot history ignored. Number 10. The White Buffalo, 1977. Charles Bronson's Wild Bill Hickok is tormented by nightmares of a colossal albino bison tearing the prairie apart. He joins Lakota warrior Crazy Horse on a snowblind hunt that feels half Spirit Quest, half grindhouse horror. Producer Dino De Laurentiis mashed animatronic monster thrills with elegiac dialogue, leaving marketers unsure. Was this Jaws on horseback or a meditation on extinction? Critics mocked the mechanical snorts, studios dumped it in spring against slick urban thrillers, and the frontier ghost vanished. Yet its climax, two legends firing into blizzard fog as the white beast erupts from pine shadows, remains one of cinema's strangest elegies. Today, its snowblind vision still chills anyone who stumbles across late-night reruns. Number 11. Comes a Horseman, 1978. Comes a Horseman rode into 1978, theaters clad in dust and dread, yet its star pedigree, Jane Fonda, James Caan, Jason Robards, couldn't save it from quiet burial. Set in the late 1940s, cattlewoman Ella Connors fights not just drought, but an oil-hungry baron who wants every acre of her valley. She joins forces with battle-scarred veteran Frank Athern. Together they mend fences, share whiskey, and watch helicopters hover like metal vultures over the high plains. Director Alan J. Pakula lights each scene like a bruised sunset, showing progress smells of kerosene and cordite. Hollywood ditched it because the story mourned the cowboy myth instead of celebrating it, and Vietnam-weary audiences fled another tale of loss. Marketing money shifted to lighter fare, burying the film beneath city comedies. Yet its slow-burn romance and thunderous final stampede still echo like hoofbeats under prairie sod, begging rediscovery before the last fence post falls. Number 12. Bad Company, 1972. Bad Company slipped out in 1972, disguised as a coming-of-age romp. But Jeff Bridges' marquee grin couldn't lure families into its bleak sermon. Runaway Ohio Teen Drew joins Bridges' draft-dodging Jake Rumsey and a ragged gang crossing Civil War Kansas with stolen horses and borrowed morality. The prairie teaches starvation faster than any school, friendships snap like dry twigs, and gunfights resemble clumsy barroom brawls. Director Robert Benton strips myth to bone. Campfire embers glow on desperate faces. The American flag flaps as indifferent as buzzard wings. Warner Brothers abandoned promotion because the film claimed Manifest Destiny belonged to pickpockets, not heroes, just as the bicentennial mood demanded optimism. Today, its innocent to outlaw transformation foreshadows every anti-hero Western that followed, whispering that the frontier never forged legends, only survivors who still hear childhood hymns while the shooting starts. Number 13. Shootout, 1971. Shootout arrived in 1971 with Gregory Peck holstering stoic gravitas as ex-bank robber Clay Lomax, fresh out of prison and aching for revenge on the partner who left him scarred. Fate saddles him with an orphaned 7-year-old girl, mailed like a last confession from a dying friend. Their trek toward vengeance becomes a lullaby of awkward smiles and brittle lullabies as Lomax chooses between raising the child or raising hell. Director Henry Hathaway frames dusty New Mexico vistas as endless crossroads, each horizon asking what kind of father a gunman can be. Universal marketed raw bullet action, yet critics balked at paternal tenderness, and audiences primed for true grit, echoes drifted away. Posters vanished after 2 weeks. Its street corner showdown still feels earned, a parent's oath paid in gunpowder, proving some westerns hide lullabies inside gunshots. Number 14. The Spikes Gang, 1974. The Spikes Gang thundered out in 1974, astride Lee Marvin's whiskey-soaked charisma, yet MGM buried it beneath bigger summer spectacles. 3 farm boys idolize Marvin's aging outlaw and flee home for mythic robberies. Learning bullets cost more than gold, and legends builds interest in blood. Director Richard Fleischer paints sun-bleached horizons that evaporate youthful daydreams with every mile. Marvin mentors and destroys in the same gravelly drawl, guiding and gutting with equal ease. Test screenings ended in stunned silence. Executives slashed ads, dismissing it as too bleak for drive-ins. Its Dying Boy finale still pierces deeper than any box office chart, warning that the greatest danger on the trail is the story you believe before saddling up. Number 15. The Great Northfield, Minnesota Raid. 1972. The Great Northfield, Minnesota Raid burst onto 1972. Marquees with Robert Duvall's volcanic Jesse James promising outlaw fireworks. But Universal blinked. Instead of dime novel heroics, director Philip Kaufman delivered a near-documentary collision of mud, misfires, and terrified townsfolk during the botched 1876 bank heist that shattered the James Younger gang. Cliff Robertson's Cole. Younger limps through Main Street like a weary gladiator, realizing myth can't outdraw Remington when citizens fight back. Studios feared backlash against folklore revisionism and cut trailers to mimic a standard Posi chase, then pulled them when word spread of its anarchic tone. Kaufman's handheld cameras and clanging church bells anticipate modern heist realism, whispering that even legends bleed ordinary red. Rediscover it and feel Main Street erupt in pistol smoke, while the myths that built a nation stagger, coughing into obscurity. Every shot fired in these forgotten westerns still ricochets through modern cinema, begging us to look past sanitized legends. If their stories stirred you, hit subscribe, ring the bell, and ride with us into more hidden canyons of film history.